terrific. I'm going to come over and it's been great to meet you. I mean, we've sort of spoken on the phone and he's been stayed up at the Hunter for a few days and then he's been staying there for a few days and we've been around and visited quite a number of people's aviaries who are sitting in this room here, so it's been a terrific couple of days for me as well. So, welcome Gary.
Thank you. First up, I'd like to say thank Sam and Graham Finch Society. They're right, yeah, for having me here. What I'm going to talk about today is I have quite a large collection of birds, mostly finches and softbills. I don't concentrate on breeding every one of those softbills every year. I just try and do well with a number of species for a period of time and maintain the others in the background and then just sort of rotate through them over 1 year and 2 year periods. Today I've chosen three of the ones I've been concentrating over the last couple of years. One of those is a softbill, another one is a mutation Australian finch, and the third one is a finch from Cape York, which I've been playing with for a couple of years now. The first one I'd like to talk about is an Australian softbill. It's called an orange chat. I've had these guys for about 10 years now. And in the last 3 years I've bred about 60 young from between 2 and 3 pairs. So I think I've almost got them right. Distribution wise, that's the recorded sightings. I live somewhere in here. And I know I've had friends sight them in areas where they haven't been sighted. They're highly nomadic, so they move across the country. As you can see, they live in inland Australia, where it's hot and dry. That's typical orange chat country. You usually have a salt lake in the near vicinity. I've seen them nesting on the edges of salt lakes. They nest in this. This is a blue bush, which is quite not that far related from a salt bush. And there's also very few trees. Aviaries and housing. This season I've got them housed in open flight aviaries. That one there is 4.8 by 2.4. And I've got another pair in an aviary 8 metres by 3 metres long. I use a lot of dry brush. I'm not a real good gardener. And the floors are bare earth. Our soil is red loam, a bit like you see on, I guess when you're looking at iron ore mining on TV, it's that colour, it's bright red. The birds I keep them with include white-fronted chats, red-backed fairy wrens. These first few are softbills. I've got the keep with striated grass wrens. They're very rare in captivity. I know I've got half a dozen birds and I think I know one other person with a couple. I also keep with a few finches, including painted firetails, the lesser red brows, black-headed Gordians, and white-bellied Crimsons. In choosing them birds to house with them, I pick birds that don't hoe into the live food. You set the aviary up to breed the orange chat, not to breed what's in with them. Might seem a bit silly when you've got a bird like that, but the food is targeting the orange chat. So I don't want something like a cordon or a parrotfinch that just eats all the good stuff. Also keep them with, or have kept them with softbills, other softbills, including these guys. I've got a lot of questions as to whether you can house the two orange chats together, orange and crimson chat together, and the answer is I have, so yes I can. I'm not going to say it won't work for you or it will work for you, but I pretty much believe it will. You can also house them side by side with no drums. They get on pretty well. I have had set up pairs and then realised that this cockbird's fallen in love with the hen in the other cage. Get a good result, and probably my best pairs set up like that. They just pick themselves. The hard bit with breeding these birds is getting a compatible pair. With a diet, they get mealworms. I buy my mealworms in, pay $35 a kilo, buy about 10 kilos at a time. They're commercially grown. I breed my own maggots. I got told the other night they were a bit dirty to be feeding them my birds, but I have started trying to purge them. So I clean them out a little bit so they're nice and white and clean looking. Probably one of the more vital ingredients or food stuff is these brown crickets. In the middle of breeding season in years gone by, now I might have had 60 softbills, so at some points in time I spend $200 a week on brown crickets. It gets pretty expensive, but it's no good going halfway. If you only go halfway, you lose the chicks and you get no reward out of it. I now have built my own cricket room, and apart from buying adult crickets in, I produce all my own crickets. You can feed the chats other food, including, I'll take fly pupae. We're fortunate enough, I guess it's fortunate enough to get 500 kilos of frozen fruit fly pupae. Those sterile fruit flies. They had a breeding program to release these sterile flies out, and they cancelled the program, and the guy got stuck with half a tonne of fly pupae. So we've got access to them, which should last a while. They love moths. I don't have a lot of bush around my area, so moth traps are very hit and miss. I know at Sam's place they're very much hit. They take a lot of lurk. Lurk, for those of you that don't know, it's like an insect that gets on the underside of a gum tree and forms a white crusty shell. You can eat it yourself, it's quite sweet tasting. When it rains and that stuff washes off the trees into the aviaries, the birds go mad on it. To the extent that you notice the other live food really falling away, the consumption of it. Mealworm pupae, if I'm a little bit short on crickets, I love the white little pupae as they're starting to turn. It's good food source for young chats as well. As a rule, I found that anything white, they're really interested in any white food, but grubs or whatever. They will, okay. You can feed nectar, I don't, which is, when I say nectar, I just used to use brown sugar and water. A bag of brown sugar to probably between 6 and 8 litres of water. Used to make frozen ice cubes, just put them all in the freezer, take one out each day and give it to them. The beauty of that is you can put colour feed in there if you want to colour feed them to keep that bright orange colour in them. And it's simple. Some people feed soft food mix. I find my climate and temperature is way too hot, and it dries out within an hour a lot of the summertime. Termites are taken with relish. Sent a pair over to John a couple of weeks ago, and he was told they might eat white ants because they'd never seen them. It wasn't by me. He said he's never seen a bird eat so many white ants. And they're really skillful at taking them. I'll get to that later. Lebanese cucumber. All the softbills love it. I've seen a wild caught bird be released in an aviary and fly straight to the cucumber and start eating it. I can guarantee there was no cucumbers growing out there. Fresh water, they have access to water, but they will live without water for weeks. If I send birds away, I never put water in the box. It's just asking for trouble. All their moisture comes out of the live food that they eat. but they love drinking, so but you can get away without it. With the breeding season, it commences in late August and is often related to a rain event. So days are getting longer with it, a little bit warmer. You get a big shower come through, the next day you can nearly guarantee they're starting to show signs of interest. The season can continue through to late March, but again it's very rain dependent. If you get a wet January, February, they tend to extend the season. The first sign of interest in breeding is the cockbird will sit there and he'll just tilt his head up and look at the sky. It's not dissimilar to a zebra finch beep, beep, beep sound. He just repeats it for hours on end. The hen gets very active and scurries along the ground, where she picks up nesting material, drops it, picks it, drops it. Very, very choosy in what they pick, but they'll go back to the same piece and then use that at a later date. At this stage, it's almost like the hen is on heat. Wherever she goes, the male is right behind her. It just doesn't want any other bird to go near her. After a week or so, she lays one egg. Then on consecutive days, she lays an egg. The clutch size is usually 3 to 4. But I've found they start sitting after the first egg. So you often get staggered size in the young ones. And both parents sit, although some cockbirds can be a bit lazy. They incubate for about 12 days. And when they hatch, they pick up the eggshell and they'll take it right, usually the door, because that's the furthest spot away from the nest, and drop it there. The length of the time that parents brood the chicks is very dependent on the weather. But I think, I was talking to Sam about it, he had red siskins in one nest and orange chats in another, lost the red siskins to the cold, and the orange chats survived. So they're equipped, or they've evolved to handle a bit of cold at night if they're not covered. But of course, if that was freezing cold, they wouldn't make it. Once the chicks hatch, you get some subtle and unsubtle changes that they really start getting busy. They spend a lot of time on the ground running around. So they're always hunting for something. And if you put the crickets out, they'll go and grab one, and then they'll grab another, and they have a beak full. So these crickets are alive, and they just really skillfully just chew them up in their beak. They never eat first, they always go back to the nest to feed the chicks. When they go back, they never go straight to the nest, they always take a secret way, try and fool you that there's no nest there. But when they leave the nest, they fly straight off, and they usually have a turd sack in their beak, so the nest is kept clean at all times. I think that's for predators. They nest about a foot off the ground in the wild, so imagine any smell would attract lizards and the like. If you go near the nest when they got chicks, they'll roll around with a broken wing, and you think, what's going on here? And you follow the bird, and within a minute they're up flying. The chicks grow incredibly fast, and they fledge up, that's 12 or 13 days old. So they've gone from that previous one to this in 13 days. They hide on the ground for a few days. If you put that in the wild, you imagine these chicks on the ground everywhere hiding, how many of them get taken by lizards and the like. So they are quite prolific in a protected environment. After about 3 or 4 days, they take to the wing and start getting up off the ground, and then it takes about 4 weeks to learn to eat. And they're actually taught to smash mealworms and crickets and things. By the time the chicks are independent, they generally have another clutch. I think for the last 2 years, 3 days after the young leave the nest, one pair there's an egg in the nest again. So every time it's been 3 days. I give them about 8 weeks with the parents. You could probably leave them there the whole time, but they begin to become a drain on all the live food. It's all about trying to give them the best food. Keep the food up to the parents for the smaller chicks. You can get, they lay 3 to 4 eggs, you can get anywhere between 0 to 4 young. But you keep the food up, you generally get good clutch sizes. I've had them many times have 6 successive nests in a season. I think not so much an orange chat, I've had a white fronted chat, had 13 successive rounds. And that they only breed in summer, spring, autumn, so it's quite a concentrated effort. I leave all the old nests in place, and at some point they nearly always reuse them. I've got one pair that always reuse the same side. In summary, they're a fantastic aviary bird. They don't bicker or fight with any of our finches. They're potentially spectacularly coloured, and they're very productive when it comes to breeding. Overall, I think they're a great stepping stone into the world of softbills, if that's where you want to go. The next species, or is the mutation I want to talk about. It's the Fawn Painted Firetail. I first saw these in an aviary just outside of Geelong, a place called Lara in Victoria. He was an old guy, and I'd say he'd be about 90, and he had 2 fawns. Both of them were yellow, and they were just, I thought they were stunning. A little while later, I visited Craig Smearley, who lived in Geelong, and he had fawns that were descendants of these birds. This time though, they were red. Again, I thought they were beautiful. After a few unsuccessful attempts, I'll call it extracting birds out of Craig, he finally relented and he sent me a pair of splits. I received them in April 2010, and they were both red birds split for fawning. Within 2 weeks of having them, they were sitting on eggs. And then within 8 weeks, I had 4 chicks out, 2 fawns and 2 reds. In October of 2010, Craig made a decision to move all of his fawn painteds on. I had a heap of lesser red brows, we decided to do a swap. Okay, in Western Australia, I've got to get an import permit for anything, bar zebra finches, star finches, and black hearts, I think. Everything else, exotic or native, needs an import permit. So I got the import permit, arranged an export permit for Craig's red brows, and posted that off, so that was all sorted. Any birds coming into WA need to be inspected by quarantine, and I mean any bird. They take photos of the birds, they send an email them off to CALM say yes, or DEC now, they say yes, that's what they are, you can release them. I then get the birds, I've got to empty all the seed out, I've got to take it down to quarantine, and they've got to destroy the seed. So that's a pain in the butt, but that's the rules. So Craig sent the birds across to me. I got a phone call from Perth, from quarantine. He said, how many birds are in the box? The quarantine officer. I said, there's 11 painted firetails and 8 black-headed nuns. Thought, oh well, that's all good. There's my permit. It's got 11 painteds, 8 black-headed nuns. So I go down to Kalgoorlie Airport that night, pick up the box, turn it around, and there's one painted in there. And the box was sticky taped together. I wasn't happy, but you know, that happens. So I found out they dropped them on the runway in Perth. And they all got away, bar one bird. And that bird was a really old bird and he couldn't fly it. So all this new blood was gone. You can either stew on it or you can move on. I don't know how many people have seen them. While they're still fairly uncommon in aviculture, I'm pretty confident to say that they're established in both the red and yellow form. The fawn only affects the back of the bird. As you can see, that's a yellow fawn hen. That's a red fawn. I couldn't tell you whether it's copper hen, but you can get a pink suffusion in the back, and some people call them pink painted. That's apparently the only apparent change. I also believe it changes to red. It makes it closer to red than crimson. I think you can see it in that photo perhaps. You also get a lot of variation in that back colour, as I said earlier. What I'm trying to do is get, if you look at a normal painted, they have a lot of variation in the back colour. Some have a lot of red feathers, some don't. If you can get that red feathered line into these guys, you start getting this pinkish tinge to it. I'm also trying to get the full red front. So to that end, I got some birds off Graham Ball. Probably a bit stretched that photo, but that gives you an idea of how much red we're trying to get into them. I've started cutting these birds back through my fawns, and that's one of the first of the progeny. It's got the full continuous red front, there's a bit of red coming through there. He's still not fully coloured up, and that was him as a youngster. When I got the birds, I know some people get disinterested in genetics, but I was told they were autosomal recessive. But I wanted to know for sure. Of the first 11 birds bred, they were 11 hens. 4 were fawn, 7 were possible split fawn, so I couldn't confirm either. The 12th bird bred was a red fawn cock bird, which come out of 2 brown birds, which meant that it had to be autosomal recessive. So your genetics are theoretical, well, not just genetic. In general, you should get 1 cock, 1 hen. I've got 13 or 11 hens in a row, so heavily weighed one side. And then the 13th bird was a yellow split, possible split fawn. You should get 1 in 4. Because the 13th bird was a yellow. So your genetics don't always behave as probability says they would. So I had a few fawns there to play with. How to go about establishing them. There are 2 trains of thought: inbreed, 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 or outcross, outcross, outcross. I went with the outcross, 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 just to, I knew if I lost the fawn birds, at least I had some birds there carrying the fawn and we could hopefully get it out somehow. To that end, I went and just bought 6 birds from as wide across WA as I could, just as a genetic, just to get that genetic diversity. Didn't matter if they were yellow or red, what was important was getting that new blood. After 2 or 3 successful clutches with each one, I then removed the normal from the fawn. I had heaps of splits then. I then paired split to coloured bird as the ideal pair, because I knew exactly what the young birds were, and that gave me, well, for want of better words, they were only 75% related, not 100%. I then also paired up some splits to splits, not an ideal pairing, but they are only 50% related. Birds bred from this second night, we then put that through Graham Bull's birds. Today I've got all split to coloured birds, so I get no normal looking birds of unknown genetic makeup. I also continue to keep 1 normal and 1 coloured bird just to keep breeding different line of splits. The birds are pretty strong. I'm ready to try a fawn to fawn just to see what happens. I think the next one's pretty important when you're playing with genetics and mutations. All possible split birds I gave to people, how would you put it? They were highly respected aviculturists that knew exactly what they were getting, so that we don't pollute the normal pool. All my pairs were set up as one pair per aviary, so I knew exactly who the parents of those young birds were. To do that, you need patience and a lot of aviary space, and I'm lucky to have at least a second one anyway. This is probably the best one I've bred to date. It looks better on the screen, I think, here. But yeah, I think they're pretty. Like, it's not a mutation for mutation's sake. What I've found is they breed as well as the normals. I regularly get clutches of 5. But some people I've sold them to have experienced early round infertility. I've put it down to inexperience, but talking to someone in this room, he's had no luck. I really don't know, because I haven't come across the problem. And he's not the only one that's had this problem. So is it something dietary? I'm not sure. They seem to live as long as normal painters. Like, they're not weak by any stretch of the imagination. When the chicks hatch, they have plum coloured eyes. So they're 2 fawns and 2 splits. And then after about 10 days, the eyes, those 2 are there this time, the eyes start to darken. Sometimes in a darker aviary it's very hard to tell between the 4, which is which. And then at about 16 days, that's the same 4 birds again. You've got your 4 in there and your 4 in there. When the young fawns come out, I think they're sexable. It's quite obvious between them 2. They're not all that clear cut, but it's quite easy to tell them apart. The bit I found great about these is even people that hate mutations have said, yeah, they're not a bad looking bird. Which I take as a compliment. So I'm fairly confident to say they're established in captivity or in agriculture now. The third species I'd like to talk about, or I'm going to talk about, is the White-bellied Crimson Finch. When we were in Brisbane convention in May, David Pace got up and spoke about the enigmatic Australian, and that was the Pictorella. And I think these guys are just as mysterious as them. How many people in here have seen one?
White-bellied.
Yeah.
7 years ago.
Yeah. It's not a lot. Like for an Australian bird, it's as a comparison, they're a little bit smaller than a black-bellied crimson, only minutely. As long as you've got the same posture, you can pick up the difference if they haven't in one scratch. They're 115 millimetres long and weigh 8 to 10 grams, which is probably pretty meaningless for most of us. As with the nominate form, or the black-bellied form, the cock and the hen are different colours. Quite obvious. Whereas the white-bellieds are white or cream. I also believe that the red colour is a shade different than the normal crimson, probably closer to red. Yeah, it's a bit red, but with the hens, the white-bellied hens tend to be closer to silver, than the black-bellied hen. So that's in this case she's got a white belly, so that's a white-bellied hen. And so yes, you can see a difference in them. Having said that, anyone that didn't hear this the other night want to have a guess as to what we've got there?
They look like three white.
Three hens.
They're all hens, but what are they? White bellies and black bellies?
Two whites and a grey. Middle one's a grey. Cross. Middle one's a black, right?
That's good. You've got a white and a black. So there isn't, and that's part of the, I think, hardly in keeping birds. Confusion can arise at times. You've really got to be on the ball with your ringing, and I've actually got rid of my black bellies now just to. I'll get in there. Oh, she's a bit rough around the head, the middle one. But in bloods in general, there's a lot of variation in them. Then your black-bellied form as well.
Did you ever have any other ones?
Bit rough around
The golden ones?
No. There's three cockbirds. Forget about the belly colour. You can see that ball and that ball are very different colours. That's why I was talking, there's a lot of variation in crimsons. Apart from that obvious difference, I think the most definitive difference in them is the call. They call totally different than a normal. I'll call them normal than a black belly. When I first let my birds out of the carry box, as bloods do, they start chirping and chirping. They made this call. It was a lot softer and a lot less harsh. So it is a tool in helping to work out which one's which. Not that I've mixed any up, but yeah, it can be used as a tool. The other problem that arises is your juvenile white bellies don't look that much different than your juvenile black bellies. So again, you don't want to mix them up. You've really got to stay on the ball. Leg rings, I often put 2 rings on the black bellies just in case. This is their distribution, so that's all your crimson finches. You've got your white bellies up here and here. These are all black bellies and black bellies. So they're a long way away from each other in the wild. Sorry, this next slide's a bit long-winded, but the Australian Government Department of Environmental Species Profile and Threats database, so the Australian Government's got a database. They say there's no definite inbreeding between the two. But one on the south end of the East Cape has been seen with a grey belly. So what is that? No one can give me a definite answer.
I've did some research on it.
Sorry?
Todd, the black Todd.
Yep.
Did a lot of research on it in the wild, and he felt that it may, black-belly might be blown off board or something, but because of the bred, obviously, with the white-belly, and it kept going back to white-belly.
Yep.
Sort of, could be. And I think he's got a photograph still on the internet.
Yes. I'm going to, sorry, deviate a bit. I was talking to Ray Ackroyd, and he spent a bit of time up there. I'm going to ring him up and see what he said I can ring him.
Well, so I've spent about 5 years or something studying birds, and he only saw one.
Yeah. There's a bit more to this story,
Sure is.
This dark margin has occurred in some captive birds. One aviculturist, and that was David Myers. He was in a position where he got some white-bellied birds from the wild as part of someone's PhD. He said they were snow white. He bred them, and he got a black halo. Now, could have been equally have been in the hens. And that's why I brought up that difference in the hens. You can't be absolutely certain back there. I haven't had this come up in any of my birds, but I did swap a bird with a guy in South Australia. He sent me two. One is a cracking red white. The other one has got about 0.5 millimetre grey halo. They both come out of the same pair. I've never used that second one for breeding, but he's there because you never know what will happen down the track. Again, who knows? Well, I don't know. I'm not. So that's just a bit of why I think they're a mystery. No one's really absolutely certain on what's going on there. Initially, all I had to go on with the white-bellieds was what I knew about the black-bellieds. And I had bred them quite well. Over time, however, I found them to be much more placid. Much more placid. I've probably only got one that I classify as a bastard, and the rest are really good. Like, I mean, he's not over the top either. I sent a pair to Alf Watts. He told me not to mention his name because everyone knows he's got him. And he said in his 60 years he's never had a bird that just come down and leg out of his hand. It's his mate. But, you know, that said something. I sent a cockbird to Craig Smearley. That cockbird prunes his hen, something I've never seen a bloodfinch do. So they're a lot quieter. Housing the nesting, that's, I know the orange sheets in there, but I don't put a lot of brush in there. It goes from the bottom to the top. This one, they spend a fair bit of time down the bottom here. That one, yeah, that's the end aviary. So, yeah, that aviary is made of qurifrons panel. Actually, the outer shell is made of qurifrons panel. The dividing walls are made of melamine. I've just got melamine sheets there and there. So that's a bank of 6 aviaries, fully roofed, but I've got others in open flights. I've got, just to show how they nest in a variety of nesting sites, my original pair have nested in that, and that. So that not each pair has a definitive choice on going and nest in brush. They just take what seems suitable at the time. They use a lot of emu feathers. And I found, sorry, I've got a slide for that. That's right. So they use emu feathers, swamp grass, bit of palm tree fibre, coconut fibre. Also, I found they really like miniature bamboo leaves. I've got a couple of plants growing in the aviaries. I'll just rake up a few and throw them in, and they put a lot of them in the nest box, particularly in the nest boxes. Feeding the diet's pretty straightforward. I just go down the seed merchant, buy bags of seed. It's roughly what's in it. The birds also get a daily mix of fresh frozen soaked seed, so I do it by Burcon, with the Burcon. I feed some livermole, it's got livermole added to it, Wombaroo soft food, anyone will do. And on alternate days I feed this slightly like D breeder strength or Probac. They also get Lebanese cucumber. I've been having a couple of issues with fertility, so I think it's diet related, which for reasons which will unfold later. So I've now added mashed frozen peas and corn. I've got on this kelp powder. and stabilised wheat germ. Again, trying to up the protein, just see whether that works or not. I'm not a believer in changing everything at once, just give that a good run, see what happens. If that doesn't work, try something else. And by a good run, I mean 6 months, not like 2 weeks or 3 weeks. The white-bellieds also get live food. They'll take the mealworms, they'll take the maggots, and they'll take crickets. But not all pairs take the crickets. The crickets you see there are probably too big. The ones I think are about a centimetre long would be a big cricket. We don't get a lot of seeding grass like you guys. That's my backyard. It never gets mowed because the couch grass grows. They will also use that for nesting. A lot of the other birds do, but I particularly like the seeding head. I do get, I think you call it barnyard grass, grows for about a month of the year. I've got access to that. If the council mow it, well, I lose that earlier. Next bit's pretty standard. They just get a good quality calcium sort of group mix, some eggshells, some tallow bone, and some charcoal. Breeding. White-bellieds are similar in need and breeding habits to their black-bellied cousins. Well, there's really no difference. The only difference is they're a lot more placid. I leave the young in there a lot longer with their parents because they don't really seem to mind. Working with a very limited genetic base means you have to set pairs up how you want them to breed, not how they want to pair up. So you don't, pairs that pick themselves I think are always much more prolific, but one bird of the genetic cross that I want is much more valuable than 6 of the ones I've already got a heap of. So it's a slow process, not all pairs bond. Clutch sizes vary from between 1 and 5 young. I found the fertility to be hit or miss, but the dietary modifications have seen a slight improvement. I used to get a clutch, then I'd get 0, then I'd get 1, then I'd get 0, then I'd get 2, then I'd get none. And I've changed the diet, and I've sort of taken the zeros out of the equation. So I'm getting at least 1 every nest. I've got a young pair set up that I bought out for about 6-8 weeks ago, and unfortunately I lost the hen after that. The thing that I think it's diet and not inbreeding is I've got one pair, and I've had them for the last 3 Octobers, so 2 years ago to the date, they brought out a clutch of 5. They then brought out 0, 1, 0, 2, 1, 0. Come to last October, they brought out a clutch of 5. Same again, then they dropped back to 0, 1, and up the diet and getting 191. I left home last week of September, they had 5 fertile eggs in the nest. So I don't think it's the birds being infertile, it's something I'm missing in the diet, and I'm not sure what.
Could be the time of the year, yeah.
Could be. They're always the same time.
Same.
Well, same October. It just seems to be October.
It's warm enough.
Yeah. But
So low fertilities might be in the winter.
yeah, it could be. But then we have really nice autumns. I mean, if it's weather, you just accept it. Where if it's diet, you can maybe try and improve it. Other pairs have now been consistently bringing out 1, 2 or 3 youngsters. It can be better, but it's better than none. I'll just repeat myself. So I think they're missing something, hence I've changed the diet. So these zeros have been hopefully eliminated. But is it coincidence? I mean, how do you know with your birds? There's that many variabilities, variables. You change something and how do you know just it hasn't been the weather? If it's inbreeding, I'm a little bit fearful of introducing birds to my flock. I haven't seen a grey halo and I don't really want to introduce it. But eventually it will need to occur. But the more I can learn about it before I do it, I think I'll get more around. As with black-bellieds, they get the independence in about 20 days. So most things are identical to black-bellieds. The only thing is I've been with the parents for a lot longer. 8 weeks mightn't seem long to some people here after talking to them today. A couple of questions I've got of people have asked me, are they soft? I don't find them any softer than the black-bellieds. And the other one is, I've read cockbirds are softer than hens. Well, I haven't found that to be the case at all. I couldn't say that they're softer or not. Like, there's no difference. It's not a real good picture, but it clearly shows the white and the red. In concluding, all 3 species I've spoken about tonight have all very different needs and all present very different challenges. I think the challenge with the orange chat and the fawn painted for me are almost there, while the white-bellied will be a work in progress for a little while to come. That's it. Thank you. Anyone got any questions?
You did big one time with one here?
In the white-bellied? Yes, yeah. I don't really have a surplus of one over the other, so...
Just a few years ago, my fiddle was running 3 times with the
I think you have a lot of black ones and wanted to get rid of them, so wrote an article and see if that's how to do it. I used to breed black-bellies quite well. Spoke to Al Whites about it. Same thing. Any more?
The yellow bloods come from the Bowen area. I got sitting out a couple of times myself.
You haven't got any more? No.
I didn't keep myself, I was a dealer.
Oh, okay, yep.
Do you notice any difference in the Kimberley bloods to the Queensland?
Yeah. Probably a bit more aggro. Look, I think they're nicer. I'm not being biased. They're just a lot blacker on the crown. But definitely I found them to be a bit more aggressive. Sorry?
The red's slightly different too.
Yeah, it's like, I've probably had more of our ones than these ones, so it's hard to draw a comparison. But in that where I had those 3 cockbirds, one of those is from Al Whites, which would have been from this side of the country.
In the Mackay area, the black-bellied and spots across their chest.
White spots?
Yeah.
I've bred a hen,
Yeah.
and it had, I'm not going to say as many spots as it, not in the white-bellied, in the black-bellied, had as many spots as a star. I actually took a photo and
There's population in the Mackay area.
I don't know where it comes from, I just,
And that's just, they're all like it.
yeah. There's also a grey-bellied form somewhere up that coast as well. Near Tully, I think.
Your climate would provide certain challenges that we may not face here. Now, you obviously use cool room panelling with some of your aviaries.
Yep.
Do you have overhead misters and what have you?
We're on water restrictions, but I used to have you could get a permit to do it, 10 minutes a day. I used to just jam that cooler on. And then people started complaining and it's wasting water, which is fair enough. And I don't like the inside of the aviary to get wet, so I used to put them on the roof. I didn't have them 2 years ago, and then last summer I bought the high pressure nozzles. Yeah, they don't need a pump or anything, they just work off your tap. You can run them for hours, and the floor doesn't, as long as it's not hitting a plant where it'll drip down the water, it'll nearly all evaporate before it hits the ground. You use a bucket or water, and I'm talking maybe a couple of buckets per nozzle. Like they're really good. I think John Martin's seen some at Bunnies. He said they're quite cheap. So.
The one up the valley, you might have, John will tell you, John's fitting into his aviaries, foggers, or what they call turkey misters. They come out of chook sheds.
Okay, yep.
And when you look at the spray come out of the nozzle, it looks like smoke.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm sort of talking about.
They call them foggers or turkey misters. You buy them in, up the valley, they have the supply chain, the supply stores. And you buy them up, a buck a piece. Yeah. But they're good brass ones.
Yeah, these are brass. If you get clever, you can hook it to a thermostat as well. So if it gets above, it doesn't make it cool, but it drops it by about 8 degrees. And I never breed parrot finches in summer. And last summer, whether it was cool or not, I don't know, but I bred the tries and the blue faces and the red faces in the middle of our summer.
Along the coast of Western Australia, you need to put in those cooling.
It gets hot. When it gets hot, like Perth gets to 45. I think Perth starts to cool off a little bit as you get south, but around Bunbury and that, I know friends in Bunbury that have had 40 degree days, 40 plus degree days. And when we get them, it's not usually one, it's 5 or 6 in a row.
There's a firm in Sydney which makes a timer for those misters on the set up where you can set the timer to say come on for 10 seconds every minute.
Yes,
And that you have a very big drop in temperature.
There's a lot, you just, I guess till you see it, you don't think about it. You go your own track.
To group days, you start thinking about it.
Well, all my roofs have got a either double corrugated iron, or they're corrugated iron insulation and then plywood as lining, or the cooling panel. No more?
No, but they cross the painted slip to get the fawn.
The fawn was in the painted already, so they are pure painted. They were just a genetic free. They're not a cross, they're pure painted.
Yeah.
They've just turned up.
What is the price of a fawn split?
Depends who's asking.
General.
When I first let them go, I was selling them for 600 a pair for a fawn and split. I think it's a bit unfair to drop the price when they've only been out for a year. Those guys should have every chance to recoup their money. So it's a hard one because I won't drop them, but I'm getting rid of them, no problem. No. You've got to look after people that have bought the birds at the top level, I think.
I agree.
That's sort of how I look at it.
What's my selling price worth?
I've only ever sold one pair, and that was for $1,200. You can't buy them max. Yeah, I guess it depends how much they're. That was it. I never paid for mine. I just got to give them Softbills along the way.
You mentioned the enigmatic Picturella in the same breath as you did
it's just everyone in this room knows Picturella.
Do you breed pigs?
Yes.
You do. Do you find them as difficult as the gloves? No. Your climate would be fantastic for Picturellas.
Yes. I had them in with the Softbills. I just got a pair recently, and I moved the chats, that's why they're in a bigger aviary now, because they just ate everything. Like, they go through 300 mealworms, so I put in 400 the next day, and they'd eat them all, and they brought out young, but it's not what I really was trying to concentrate on.
Can I, on behalf of everybody here and also all the other people who've talked to Gary over the last week, including the Hunter branch where he got a pretty scabby little badge. Wollongong, he got a very nice shirt. So I thought from us, we better finish off the uniform for the cat. And completely unexpected, no doubt, Gary will give you one of our mugs. You never pick one of them.
Thank you.
And thank you. And I mean, the thing that's really impressed me, and even people who've made comments, is the sort of detail of his observation. And there's a few people in this room who I know are a little bit similar to that. I know I've learned a lot just by stuff in my aviaries that Gary's noticed, that he's observed. Little things about the way birds move, and you know, just little things that I've noticed but I've never sunk in. And I guess that's what makes the difference between the real experts and those of us who are just sort of mucking around. So it's been a very impressive experience for me too. So on a personal basis, thank you very much, Gary.